What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I have my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below, and with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Glenmorangie 12-year-old Lasanta. Stick around. Okay, Glenmorangie Lasanta today. This is a bottle I've looked at before, but it's been a really long time. It's been over 2 years since I last looked at it. And when I did, it was a like, but it wasn't a love. I believe I scored it something like 82. So not great, but fine. But 2 years later, I find myself with another bottle on my shelf, and we're going to talk about it. And what's fun about this one is that it's one of many Glenmorangies that I have on the go at the moment. I currently have the 10, this 12-year-old, the 14, the 16, and the 18. So I've got a bunch right now. And what I might do is I'll make a series where I review them all independently, and then eventually I'll do just one big side-by-side with all of them. And for that side-by-side, I am considering blinding myself for it, either with a blindfold or sulfuric acid. I haven't decided yet, but I do want to make it into some kind of challenge, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, this one specifically I wanted to come back to because I'd heard that it had been reformulated, and even though I wasn't totally sold on it last time, anytime you have a budget-friendly whiskey that's undergone a reformulation, it's always good to kind of check back in on it. Because if it did get better, you've now got a new, affordable, and delicious whiskey that you can add to your rotation, and who doesn't like affordable, delicious whiskeys? Nobody, that's who. Anyway, for our casks, we have both bourbon and sherry casks. Now, I believe, or I always thought this was a finish, I'm not sure anymore. The way they word it on the website, they just say it spent 12 years in bourbon and sherry casks, which is kind of ambiguous. They do have other releases where they outright say this is a cask finish, but they don't say that for this one, so I'm not sure what the deal is here. If any of you guys out there know what the deal is with this stuff, you can let me know in the comments down below. One last thing I want to throw in before we move on is a quote from the website, and it goes, "This whiskey is Dr. Bill," that's Dr. Bill Lumsden, that's their master blender, master distiller. "This whiskey is Dr. Bill's attempt to bottle the magic of sunset with its endless horizon of reds, oranges, and purples." Now, listen, that may sound like silly marketing drivel, but regardless of how you feel about that sentence, it is undeniably a sentence. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all of our basics covered, so let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. For our specs, this one is 43%, it is chill filtered, and it is colored. So I don't love the new look that Glenmorangie has. They underwent a redesign, I think, earlier this year or late last year. And yeah, I said in my recent review of the 16-year-old, I said it's fine, it's okay, but the older bottles were just a little bit classier, they were more handsome. I still feel that way, so this one, it's okay still, 3 out of 5. Unsurprisingly, no mention of color or chill filtration here. We do get a basic notes breakdown, and we do get a very, very basic description of the casks. So basically it says bourbon and sherry casks. It doesn't specify, Oloroso, PX. It doesn't specify much at all. Very, very basic label, not much information. It looks fine. On the nose, this is a sweet, dark sherry. It's a lot more chocolatey than I remember. So I get lots of milk chocolate. There are dark red fruits in here. This is very creamy. It's very spicy. This is heavy on the caramel. There's caramelized fruits. There's like candied apples, candied strawberries. There's dark red fruits. There's blood orange. There's dates. There's toffee. There's licorice. And there's some star anise. This is nice. On the palate and finish, this is sweet up front. It's very creamy. I get some really nice earthiness from this. Some great spices in here. There's like cinnamon, there's nutmeg, there's anise, again, licorice. There's heavy cream, cola, root beer float, hazelnut chocolate, milk chocolate, and those caramel chocolate bars. Like, those Cadbury chocolate bars where it's milk chocolate on the outside, gooey caramel on the inside. Love those things. That's in here. Overall, I would describe this as creamy, sweet, and chocolatey. And of course, who could forget the taste of the colors? So this tastes like orange, red, and purple, all put together. It tastes like a sunset. Bill, you've done it again. Okay, so the first bit of good news about this stuff is that based on the description, you might think this is a very cloying and syrupy whiskey. For me, it isn't. Now, it is a sweet whiskey. I would even call it a dessert whiskey. Like, it's got that character, it's got that profile. but at no point did I find it annoyingly sweet, although some might. And our second bit of good news here is that I much prefer this to the previous iteration of the Lasanta. As I said, I didn't love that last one. I found it kind of simple, I found it kind of flat, and of course this is not going to be the most complex whiskey in the world, but for me it does offer more complexity, and more importantly, it's more vibrant and it's more satisfying. And I know those are kind of like nebulous terms, but what do you want? It's an amateur whiskey review. And actually, a third thing that I could touch on here is the ABV. It's always an issue with 43% whiskeys. People want to know, is it too light? Is it too watery? Am I going to smack that button? No, for me, this is obviously, it would be better at 46%. The whiskey would be better served at 46%, but it's not so light or watery that I don't enjoy it as is. And lastly, I do want to talk about the sweetness here, because I'm one of those guys I'm sensitive to overly sweet whiskeys. This does not strike me as an overly sweet whiskey, but it does have that sort of indulgent dessert-like profile that you might find in like a high-quality liqueur, for example, but it's not too much, and it doesn't taste like a liqueur, don't worry. It's got all the sophistication and all the yumminess of a single malt whiskey.
Did he just say yumminess? Yeah, I heard it too. How old is he? 40.
And beyond just having a sweetness that works, this has a lot of notes that I thoroughly enjoy. I'm a sucker for milk chocolate. It's one of my favorite snacks, and we do get a lot of chocolatey notes in here. Milk chocolate and Doritos, my two favorite snacks in the world. I've yet to try a whiskey that tastes like Doritos, but you never know, I might someday. We also have licorice in here, another top tier snack, and of course, I don't mean the black licorice. The red ones. Never the black ones. And lastly, we have those soda notes, which I really enjoy. There's cola notes, there's root beer notes, or even root beer float. So you get some root beer and a big scoop of ice cream on top. Which, by the way, that's an absolutely wild thing to put into your body. That said, I do remember having a root beer float once when I was around 7 years old, and I'm pretty sure at the time I did enjoy it. But then again, that was around the same age that I chugged half a bottle of maple syrup, just because I felt like it. So, I mean, I guess the point is, at 7 years old, I was not the picture of class, refinement, and good taste that you see before you today. Anyway, all of that is to say that I was not expecting much going into this whiskey, and I was pleasantly surprised. I do enjoy it. As I said, I prefer it to the previous incarnation, and I would even go so far as to say that this is the best version of Glenmorangie Lasanta that I've ever had. You know, I've had all the different sort of versions of it over the years, all the different label designs going back, like 15 years? This one is my favorite. Is that to say that this is going to be a mind-blowing epic experience for you? No, it's not. It's a well-made, well-crafted, budget-friendly 43% sherried whiskey. It does its job, and it does it quite well. Score on this is going to be 84. This is a satisfying, easy-to-like, dessert profile type whiskey. If that description sounds good to you, then you're probably going to like this stuff. Obviously, we will touch on value. Before we do that, though, I want to say a quick thank you to all my channel members, all my patrons, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. And if you want to help out, if you want to help keep the channel financially sustainable and independent, there are a number of ways that you can help. I've got both Patreon and PayPal linked down below. Anything and everything helps. And again, huge thank you to those of you who are already supporting the channel. Now let's check out value. So I didn't really buy the old version, even though it was cheap, because I found it to be a below average whiskey, but I find this to be an above average whiskey, and it still comes in at a great price tag. So in my market, and I know that's not going to be true for your market, but in my market, this is under 40 US, it's under 30 pounds, which is quite absurd for the quality that you're getting for this. Is it a mind-blowing epic whiskey? As I said, no, it isn't, but for that price, I really can't complain. Recommended. All right, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and obviously I want to hear from you. So have you tried the Glenmorangie Lasanta 12-year-old? Or more specifically, have you tried this version of the Glenmorangie 12 Lasanta? How would you compare this to the previous versions? Did you find much of a difference there? Did you find it worth the money? How much are you paying in your market? You can let me know all of that down below. Finally, down below, you can also let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I will keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.